Has your spouse been showing signs of aging that you didn't expect? Maybe subtle changes at first, but over time, those changes seem to become more apparent. Maybe they're forgetting things, needing more help getting around, or even becoming more emotionally distant. It's hard to accept when the person you love starts showing these signs, but the question is, are you truly prepared for what's ahead? What if I told you that many of the struggles you'll face in caring for an aging spouse could have been avoided if only you were better prepared? You may think that aging is a predictable process, but the truth is, some of the hardest parts of being a caregiver aren't what you expect. And the worst part is, most people never talk about them. Now stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'm going to reveal 5 hard truths about caring for an aging spouse, truths that could make or break your journey. The last one might just hit you harder than you think, but before we dive in, take a moment to think about your situation. How well prepared are you for the role of being a full-time caregiver? Let's find out. Taking care of an aging spouse is not something anyone truly prepares for, at least not in the way they should. It's not just about getting their medications right or making sure they eat well. Caring for an elderly partner means learning to navigate changes in their personality, their physical abilities, and sometimes even their cognitive function. But more importantly, it's about learning to care for yourself while caring for them. Think about it. When was the last time you truly sat down and asked yourself, am I ready for what's ahead? You may have helped your spouse with a few things here and there, but are you prepared for the emotional and physical toll caregiving can take on you? This is where the problem lies. People often don't realize how hard it can be to care for a loved one until they're deep in it. By then, it's too late to turn back, and you're left facing challenges you weren't ready for. And unfortunately, it's only after a crisis that many caregivers begin to understand what they've gotten into. Truth 1: the emotional toll can be overwhelming. When you first start helping your spouse, it often seems manageable. A few extra tasks here and there, helping out when needed, but nothing that feels like it's outside the bounds of what a loving partner should do. At first, it might even feel rewarding. After all, you're there for your spouse during a challenging time, providing support in their hour of need. However, over time, the reality of caregiving begins to sink in, and the emotional toll can quickly become overwhelming. As your spouse's health declines, the line between being a partner and being a caregiver starts to blur. What was once a few simple tasks, such as helping them with meals or assisting with mobility, may evolve into full-time responsibility. You might find yourself feeling more like a caregiver than a spouse, with an ever-increasing list of duties that seem to leave you no time for yourself. The emotional strain builds gradually, but it can be a heavy burden to bear, and before long, you might start to feel disconnected from the relationship you once had. A study published by the National Institute on Aging highlights just how significant this emotional toll can be. It found that caregivers of elderly spouses often experience higher levels of stress, which can lead to serious health problems, including high blood pressure, depression, and fatigue. As caregivers devote more time and energy to meeting the needs of their spouses, they often neglect their own mental and physical health, creating a vicious cycle of stress and burnout. The emotional toll can manifest in many ways. Feelings of guilt, frustration, and even resentment are common. Take Joe, for instance. Joe had always been an independent and strong man. He and his wife, Carol, had shared an equal partnership for years. But when Carol's health started to decline, Joe found himself taking on more and more responsibilities. He was now cooking, cleaning, and helping Carol with her personal care. Over time, the strain became too much for Joe to handle on his own. He was constantly tired, feeling as if the weight of his wife's care was resting entirely on his shoulders. The emotional burden of caregiving started to take a toll on his well-being. He became frustrated and resentful, feeling isolated and withdrawn from the world. His focus was entirely on Carol's needs, leaving no room for his own emotional needs to be met. It's important to acknowledge that caregiving isn't something you should face alone. Many caregivers struggle with the emotional challenges of their role, but there is help available. Asking for assistance isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom and strength. Whether it's reaching out to family and friends, hearing professional help, or seeking counseling, support is crucial. Speaking with others who understand your experience can be a vital source of comfort. Counseling can help you process your emotions and develop healthy coping strategies. Taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of your spouse's physical health. Taking regular breaks, finding time for relaxation, and engaging in hobbies you enjoy can make a big difference in managing the emotional toll. Caring for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. You can't pour from an empty cup, and in order to be the best caregiver, you need to ensure that your own emotional and mental well-being is nurtured as well. Truth 2: your marriage will change, and that's okay. When you married your spouse, you probably never imagined that one day you would be their primary caregiver. In the beginning, your relationship was filled with shared experiences, mutual support, and a sense of partnership. But as your spouse's health begins to decline, your relationship may change in ways you couldn't have predicted. The person you once relied on for emotional connection and support might not be able to offer the same comfort or presence. The person you love may no longer be the person you married, and that can be difficult to accept. The foundation of your marriage, once built on a shared future, might start to feel like it's cracking. This shift can be especially challenging when cognitive or physical decline begins to affect your spouse's personality and behavior. The Alzheimer's Association highlights how cognitive decline can alter a person's personality, making it more difficult to maintain intimacy and connection. As your spouse's abilities change, you may find yourself facing emotional distance, and this can lead to frustration and loneliness. Communication may become more strained, and the ease of connection you once shared could feel elusive. In many cases, the roles in the marriage shift dramatically. One partner is no longer just a spouse, but also becomes a caregiver, taking on the bulk of the responsibility for daily activities and health management. For Frank and Nancy, this change was stark. They had been married for 45 years, sharing everything from dreams and aspirations to everyday moments. They had a partnership that was built on mutual support and understanding. But after Nancy suffered a stroke, her health and abilities began to deteriorate. She was left with limited mobility and speech difficulties, which meant Frank needed to take on more of the caregiver role. Slowly, their dynamic shifted. Frank was no longer just her husband, he became her primary caretaker. The relationship, which was once centered on shared experiences and emotional connection, now revolved around medical care, routines, and practical matters. At first, Frank tried to maintain the same sense of partnership, believing that their bond could remain unchanged. But reality soon set in. His wife was no longer able to engage in the way she once did, and their relationship felt different. It wasn't just a matter of caring for someone, it was about navigating a new dynamic that was filled with uncertainty. Frank felt as though he was losing not just his wife's health, but also the connection they had shared for so many years. He was no longer her partner in the same way, and that emotional shift was difficult for both of them. Adjusting to these changes isn't easy, but it is essential. One of the most important steps is to redefine what your relationship looks like moving forward. The love and care you feel for each other doesn't have to disappear, even if your roles are changing. Find new ways to connect and show affection. It might not look the same as it did before, but that doesn't mean it's any less meaningful. Whether it's sitting quietly together, watching a favorite movie, or simply holding hands, these moments of connection are vital. It's about accepting that, while the shape of your marriage may evolve, the foundation of love and commitment can remain intact. The changes that come with caregiving are profound, but they don't have to signal the end of your relationship. By adapting and finding new ways to show your love and support, you can navigate these changes together. It's okay for things to shift. What matters most is that you face the journey as partners, even in a new form. Truth 3: physical care can be more demanding than you expect. Most caregivers aren't prepared for how physically demanding it can be to care for a loved one. Whether it's helping them walk, taking them to doctor's appointments, or assisting them with personal hygiene, caregiving can be physically exhausting. And what happens when you, the caregiver, get sick or injured? It's an unfortunate reality many caregivers face, and it's one that can take a serious toll. A report from the Mayo Clinic indicates that caregivers often neglect their own health needs. Physical stress, like lifting a spouse or assisting them with mobility, can lead to serious injuries. Caregivers often experience back pain, joint strain, and sleep deprivation. Carol didn't realize how much lifting and helping Joe would require. After he suffered a fall, she found herself having to assist him out of bed, get him dressed, and help him with daily activities. It wasn't just exhausting, it was physically demanding, and after a few months, Carol started noticing back pain that wouldn't go away. To avoid injury, it's important to learn proper techniques for lifting and assisting your spouse. Consider hiring a physical therapist or occupational therapist who can help you with mobility techniques, and always make sure you're getting enough rest and taking care of your own physical health. Truth 4: the financial strain can be heavy. Most caregivers don't expect the financial strain that comes with taking care of an elderly spouse. Medical expenses, home modifications, in-home care services, all of these costs can add up quickly, and while insurance may cover some expenses, it rarely covers everything. Studies from the Family Caregiver Alliance have shown that the financial strain of caregiving can cause caregivers to experience depression and anxiety. The stress of managing finances can take away from the energy you need to focus on the care your spouse requires. Frank and Nancy were devastated when they realized how much their savings were being drained. Nancy's medical bills were mounting, and they needed to make their home more accessible. Despite Frank's best efforts to manage, they found themselves cutting back on essentials like food and utilities just to make ends meet. Start planning for future expenses as soon as possible. Look into insurance options, such as long-term care policies, and explore community resources. Financial assistance programs might be available through your local government or nonprofits, and if you haven't already, consult with a financial planner to help manage caregiving costs. Truth 5. You'll face moments of guilt and doubt. One of the hardest parts of caregiving is the guilt. You may feel like you're not doing enough or that you're somehow failing your spouse. It's easy to get caught up in the demands and forget that it's okay to not have all the answers. Guilt is a constant companion for many caregivers. The emotional strain of caregiving can lead to high levels of stress hormones, making you more prone to feelings of anxiety and depression. This can affect your physical health and your ability to give care effectively. Joe would often lie awake at night, wondering if he was doing enough for Carol. She would reassure him, saying she was fine, but he still felt guilty. Was he too tired? Did he miss any of her needs? That guilt plagued him for months. Remember that caregiving is not about perfection. You're doing the best you can, and sometimes the best thing you can do is to simply show up and be there for your spouse. Take time to acknowledge your emotions and talk about them with someone you trust. Self-care is not selfish, it's essential. Stay with me until the end, because the last truth I'm about to reveal could be the hardest to accept, but it's something every caregiver should be aware of. If you're still with me, comment "I'm here" below and share what part of caregiving you struggle with the most. Let's talk about it together. Being a caregiver is an incredibly rewarding yet challenging role that demands patience, empathy, and strength. While it's often seen as an act of love and compassion, the reality is that caregiving can take a significant toll on your emotional, physical, and financial well-being. Acknowledging this is the first step toward managing the journey ahead. Here are 5 truths about caregiving that may be difficult to face, but are essential to understanding and navigating the experience. The emotional strain can be overwhelming. Caring for a loved one, especially a spouse or family member, comes with deep emotional challenges. You may feel a range of emotions, from frustration and exhaustion to guilt and sorrow. It's easy to become overwhelmed by the constant demands of caregiving. The emotional weight of watching a loved one struggle with health issues can also lead to feelings of isolation. These emotions are perfectly normal, but it's important to recognize and address them rather than suppress them. The physical toll is real. Caring for someone can be physically demanding. Whether you're assisting with mobility, managing daily tasks, or attending to medical needs, caregiving often involves lifting, bending, and long hours spent on your feet. These physical demands can lead to burnout or even injury. It's easy to neglect your own health when you're focused on someone else's needs, but it's vital to take breaks, get enough rest, and pay attention to your own body. The better you care for yourself, the better you can care for your loved one. Financial costs are often higher than expected. The financial strain of caregiving is an aspect that often goes unnoticed until it becomes overwhelming. Many caregivers find themselves paying for medical expenses, specialized equipment, or services that insurance doesn't cover. On top of that, some caregivers may have to reduce their working hours or leave their jobs entirely, which can cause a significant loss of income. Being aware of the potential financial strain can help you prepare and seek out resources, such as caregiver support programs, to alleviate some of the burdens. You'll need support, and that's okay. Caregiving can be a lonely experience, especially if you're taking on the responsibility alone. You may feel guilty about asking for help, but it's essential to recognize that you cannot do it all by yourself. Accepting help, whether from family, friends, or professional caregivers, is not a sign of weakness. It's a necessary part of managing the responsibilities you face. Joining a support group, seeking counseling, or simply talking with others who understand can provide invaluable relief and understanding. Taking care of yourself is crucial. One of the most important truths is that, in order to care for your loved one effectively, you must also take care of yourself. This means making time for self-care, setting boundaries, and prioritizing your own mental and physical health. You deserve to have your own needs met, whether it's time for a personal hobby, a workout, or a quiet moment to recharge. Remember that you cannot pour from an empty cup, and your well-being is just as important as your spouse or family members. Caregiving is undeniably challenging, but acknowledging these truths and preparing for the road ahead can help you manage the difficulties with more resilience. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and share this with someone who might need it. Don't forget to comment below if you have your own caregiving story or advice. Let's create a supportive community where we can all lean on each other. Thank you for watching, and remember, taking care of yourself is just as important as taking care of your spouse. You deserve support too.